Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the screencast. You may be wondering, why am I not watching a live version of the class? Well, because both times I thought that I was recording the class, I was not. Or something happened, I don't know, I got to the end of it and I was like, no! They got me again. So, hopefully third time's a charm, and also, third times will be a charm. Okay. We're starting off great. All right, here's the deal. If you're in period 2, what I would like you to do is a thing that is right here, I believe, on the screen. Writing a persuasive letter in your writer's notebook to somebody who makes the decisions in your family. You're going to put into practice the ideas in the Aristotle's rhetoric or rhetorical appeals, and use them for your own purposes. Mostly the idea is that you can ask for something huge or ridiculous, like, Mom, Dad, I want to be a hobo and ride the rails! Fun fact, which I did mention in just the one that I just did now, hobo is not a derogatory term because it was created by the people who were riding the rails. And it has a specific meaning, but I can't remember what it is anymore. Because. Anyway, yeah, and it could, and then using ethos, pathos, logos, to come up with different ways to support that argument and make that ask. Concede where you're like, okay, I can understand why you would say, why would we throw away all of the years of your education so far? And then you can either like straight up refute that argument, or you could say like, and that's a good point, which is why I'm only going to do it for a year. That would be revising. So actually, sneakily, when you write your own essay, for the persuasive essay that's coming along, and in the examples that we're going to be the on-purpose, advanced comp, samples that you're going to have a chance to read, you will be looking for concessions, and then they're conceding that there's a point against it, and then either just refuting that point straight up and being like I said, or sometimes revising the position so that taking into account this other argument. Because that's actually an excellent sign of good critical thinking, which is one of the reasons why when you are writing kind of ACT essays or DBQs, where it's important to point out that you know that there are counter arguments to the things that you're saying, and then you respond to them. Okay. Hey! But if you're in period 7 and you're like, what's up? Why did you go so long about that, lady? Well, guess what? You get to do the second thing over here, which is the persuasive writing in the real world. And if you watched the thing yesterday and you're like, I still don't understand what we're talking about. Basically, I just want you to find somebody writing about something on the internet that A, you care about the thing that they're writing about, and B, they've got a point of view that they're trying to get across. Because chances are, if they are trying to get something across, or if they've interviewed somebody who has a lot of like great opinions, chances are they are using at some point at least one appeal to our emotions. They're using at least one point where they're establishing like why we should bother listening to them, what's their credibility, and they're probably at least once or twice using either evidence or making a logical analysis of something and saying like, well, it's reasonable, reason, sneaky other word for analysis and logic, that it's like, well, if you got this, and then da-da-da-da, then thus, blah, 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 blah. And then, look, they've been using logos. Okay. I made those instructions just a little bit more clear, where after you find somebody being persuasive about something that is mildly interesting to you, then you will save it as a PDF, and then you will, in order to make it clear to me that, so I don't have to be psychic to see what you see, you're going to highlight the different examples of the different things in whatever color you choose. So if you're like, oh my gosh, Kirk Cousins thinks a thing. I'm referring now to an example that I'm not showing you at the moment. But where he said one of the things that he's saying about it not being terrible, where it's not the worst thing in the world if the Vikings play not in front of crowds. And he mentions, like, we do all these practices without crowds, we do this without crowds, we do this without crowds, we do this without crowds. So, like, in one sense, it's not actually that big of a change. OMG, that's actually using logos. He's saying, look at all these other places, so therefore it's not that big of a deal. So I would, if I were doing that one, highlight that using the highlighting tool in Preview, like blue, if I wanted to use logos for blue. There's another place where he says something along the lines of, like, I had my doubts about blah, blah, blah at first. That, sneakily, is a way to establish credibility, I think, where it's like proving, hey, I don't just come to this blindly. I thought opposite, and then was persuaded and shown a thing, and so now I'm sort of endorsing it and by passing it along to you. Things like that. So, as you can see, highlight 1 to 2 examples of ethos in a color. Pathos, where they're using something, they're being persuasive emotionally. And then if you can find a place where they point out something and arguments against it, and then either, like, say that those are valid or say that give an argument against them, awesome. Awesome. Same thing with your letter writers. I'm going to want you to, for one of the arguments, even if the data that you have or the evidence that you have is, like, ludicrous or somewhat made up, that's totally fine with the letter. But because I could say, like, well, studies show that 98% of people who become hobos for a year end up having really successful and happy lives. Therefore, etc., etc. Okay. That's that for the assignment bits. I'm going to do a separate one, I've just decided, for actually racing through the Ethos, Pathos, Logos one, so that you can just tune in for the part that you need. Yay!